Okay, we're up to Mishnah Daf Chav Ches. We're going along with the theme of things that are ma'akiv each other. We're going along with the theme that's things that are ma'akiv each other. Shiva Knei Menorah Ma'akvin Zeh Zeh. The seven branches of the menorah are ma'akiv each other. Uh, the menorah, fellas, is that central branch. The central branch, that's considered the menorah. Those coming off that central branch are called the konim. If you're missing any of those seven, it's ma'akiv. It's not a kosher menorah. Shivan eroseh ma'akvin zeh zeh. And at the top of the menorah, there were cups. There were cups. At the top, at those tops, there were cups. They were ma'akiv each other. It's very interesting. If you look at Rashi, Rashi says, Shiva knei menorah k'dichsiv, v'shisha konim yotzim mitzideha, v'menorah atzma shebe'emsa hi hashvius kizeh. When Rashi says kizeh, it usually means a picture, right? Guys, you understand, Rashi's kizeh. So I'm going to be very mean to the art school guys. If you look at the side, it says the picture is on Daf Tzadik Ches Amid Beis. So if you look at Tzadik Ches Amid Beis, although I think there's two people on board here who may have it. I said Nassim and Benji might have. Benji's out. Wow. I only got one guy. Does anyone have a
only
Tzaddik Ches?
I left the Gemara in Shul.
Raise your hand if you have a Tzaddik Ches. I got one person. Okay. So here's Daf Tzaddik Ches, guys. That's the picture. So only the central, only the center is the menorah. The branches that are coming off that. Now the tops of each branch is considered the corner. That's is considered the place where you would put the oil in. So again, going over the Mishnah, Shiva Knei Menorah, seven branches. Ma'akiv says if you're missing one, it's Ma'akiv. Shiva Neirei Seha. This Neirei Seha does the top part where you're going to put in the oil and the wicks. It's Ma'akiv. Shtei Parshiyos Sheba Mezuzah, the Parsha of Shema V'Hayim Shemoah. If you're missing one of the Parshiyos, now not only missing one of the Parshiyos, Afilu Ksav Echad Ma'akvin. This is even one what? Even one ois is Ma'akiv. And this is the beginning of the digression where all the halachas, the stam of Sefer Torah, Tefillin and Mezuzah come from Masechta Menachos, guys. Based on this mission of Justin here, als bar mitzvah drushes fangt an von da. Every bar mitzvah drush is going to come from here because of the saying that if it's missing one of the oisius and so on. So in the Tefillin, the Hayim Shema, and the Mezuzah of Hayim Shemaya, or Shema is missing, or even one letter. And Dalit Pashir Shevet Tefillin, the four Pashas of Tefillin, right? In addition to Shema, you have Kadosh B'cha v'Hoya Kivi Yiviyacha, right? Ma'akiv Zu, they're Ma'akiv. I feel Ksavecha Ma'akiv, even one letter, as we'll see. Dalit Tzitzios Ma'akiv Zu. If you have a beged with four tzitzis, so you take off one of the tzitzis, it's not a kosher beged, it's not you're not making the mitzvah. Rabbi Shmuel says there are four separate mitzvahs, and then Mela, if you go ahead and take off one, you'd still be yaitzu of the other three. So that's Yachid, the shita of Rabbi. So for all
by
intents and
tzitzis, he only says by tzitzis, not by tefillin or anything like that.
No, only by tzitzis. Only by tzitzis. Now, today or this morning, we're only going to be discussing the menorah. Today, we're only going to be discussing the menorah. So, my timer, we want to know what's the reason that it's ma'akiv if you don't have the branches. Havaya ksivbahu. It says the lashon of havaya. Asisa menorah zav tahar miksha te'asa ha-menorah. Te'as is a lashon of avaya. Mino eshesh, right? It says, excuse me, the havaya is the kafta reyem v'kanoisam mimenu yiyu. The kaftorim and its kon is mimeno yiyu. From it should be. So when it says yiyu, it is lashon of avaya. I quoted the wrong pasuk. I jumped the gun. Tan rabbanan, right? Menorah haisabah mino eshes. The menorah came from one piece of gold, as opposed to particles put together. It came from one piece of gold, umin azav, asa min grutais, if you made it from fragments and put them together, psula, it's puzzle. Mishar mini matachais kshera. But from all other mini matachais, it is kasha. So it has to be one piece if it's made from gold. If it's made from other silver or copper or any other metal, it will be kosher. It does not there, it would not need to be from one piece. Okay. Now be aware in the Torah, fellas, it says mixture 4 times. It says zahav 5 times. 4 times mixture, 5 times. Pashas Trum and Pashas Balescha. Maishna min hagrutais psula. What's the reason gold fragments put together is puzzle? Dichsiv, because it says miksha v'havaya. It says vasisa menorah zahav tahar. Fellas, you should make a menorah zahav tahar. Miksha te'asa ha-menorah. So te'asa means the asiya, that's the way it has to be. Now notice, it says miksha, but it also says zav. It says vasisa menorah zahav, 1, miksha te'asa. And you're telling me that te'asa is only going on the miksha. Because if you make it, because it's not going on the zav, because you can make it from other metals. Guys, right? Look, it said 2 things. It said zahav and miksha, and it said te'asa. But you tell me that te'asa is only going back on the miksha. Because other metals, you could make it from other metals. Why don't you say zahav te'asa, that it can only be made from gold? Right? But it's not. Okay, that's the problem over here. Mishay minach kshera maishna min agrutais psula d'chsev miksha v'havaya shamini matachas nami zahav v'havaya. It also says teyasa going on the what, the zahav. So why are you able to use other metal? Amakra teyasa is the Rabbi shamini matachas. Teyasa is to go ahead and include other metals, right? Teyasa meaning any type of asiya, even other metals. Why do you opt to say other metals? Why don't you say to opt to say it means fragments also, not just one shtick? It says you can't say that. Now mixture ksiva havaya, right? Mixture it says havaya. It says yiyu. It says no teyasa nami on mixture ksiv. It says teyasa on mixture, and teyasa is mashma any which way. Lav dafka one piece, but even multiple pieces. It says the Gemara mixture la'akev. It doubles down. It says mixture a second time. Since it says it a second time, it's ma'akiv. Mikvah, yeah, mixture, yes. One piece, yes. Not one piece, no. Says the Gemara, zav nami la'akiv. Zav nami la'akiv. And therefore, let's say only gold and no other metal. Now, guys, again, the preface is, it says mixture 4 times. It says zahav 5 times. So here's the rundown. If you're going to darshan the way we're darshaning now, miksha is la'akev and zahav is not la'akev, I'll have possible drushes for the 4 and the 5. But if you're going to tell me that it's ma'akev, the zahav, then our cheshbon of drushes gets obliterated, and therefore it's not going to work. Right? Haimai. If you bring it from golden fragments, it's pasul. Mishami nemetachas kshera, but from other meaning, right? It's other meaning. It's kasha. Hainu zahav. That's why it says zav, right, twice, once in truma and once in aloischa. A mixture, but twice in truma. Mixture, right? The drasha, and therefore I can have the mixture in baloischa for a drasha. Eli ame migru tois kshera mishami nemi tachas psula zav solav mixture my drasha. What am I going to do with the extra drashas? Says my drasha. What's one of the? We're not going to do all the drashas. Some of the drashas. The Tanya kika zav tahar ya'asa isa. That's called akelim ha'ela. Okay. Ba zahav, ba kikar. If it comes from gold, you have to begin with a kikar of zav. Aina ba zav, but if it doesn't come from zav, it comes from other metal. Aina ba kikar, you don't need a kikar. So that's one of the drushes. We would not have that drusha, guys, if zahav is to ma'akif. So again, for all intents and purposes, what we have to know is, we have other drushes, it must be because the zav is extra. Why is the zav extra? Because it's not ma'akiv, because it can use other metals. Mashenke mixture, all the drushes work out, despite the fact we have 2 to tell me that it's ma'akiv. If you make it from gold, it has to be from one piece. Kiviyeha kaftareho procheha. Now, a further drusha, it's cups, it's flowers, it's prochim, right? Bo'azav, the balls, bo'azav, bo'gaviyim kaftareho procheha. If you make it from gold, you have to have the cups, you have to have the balls, and you have to have the flowers. Ein ba zav, if it's not made from zav, ein ba givim, kaftareim, uprachim. You don't need that. Ve'emanami, why don't you also say ba zav ba konim, right? Ein ba zav, ein ba konim. So, in other words, if you're telling me that the components of the menorah, it has konim, those branches, and it has cups, and it has kaftareim, and you're telling me the following: if it's made from zav, it needs the ornaments of kaftareim, gevim, and so forth, but not. So say the same thing, guys. If it's made from silver, it's made from copper. Maybe you don't need the branches either. Again, you're telling me that zav it needs these components, but not zav it doesn't need these components. So let's take it all the way. Just like it doesn't need cups and flowers and balls, it also doesn't need what? Branches. That Gemara says you can't entertain that because ahu pomet mikri. That's called a pomet. That's called a candlestick. That's not a menorah, right? A menorah by definition has branches, and it says menorah. If you just have one piece, that's a candlestick. Zemaisa menorah mixture zav. Ba zav ba miksha. If it comes from zav, it has to be one piece. Aina ba zav, aina ba miksha. Okay. Mixture is sefer l'mayasa. What's the mixture of the sefer come to include? To learn from lemutei chatzaitzros. The chatzaitzros, the trumpets that were used in the Beis Hamikdash, the Tanya. Chatzaitzros are yiboyim mina eshesh. Chatzaitzros, they would come from one piece. Mina kesef, from silver. Asam min grutois ksherim, if you made it what from different pieces, it would be kosher. Mishami nimitachas psul. So it's chatzaitzos guys are the exact opposite of the menorah. The menorah, right? Menorah has to be from one piece from zahav. If you make it from different pieces, it's no good. This has to be from kesef. If you make it from different pieces, it is good, right? In different pieces, it is good. However, you can make it from any other, as opposed to the menorah, which could be of other precious metals. The chatzaitzos had to be dafka silver. Again, one more time. Chatzaitzos hayuboy mina eshesh, one piece, mina kesef. Asam in grutois ksheros, silver pieces put together would be acceptable. Mishamini mitachas, but any other metal pasulim, right? Any other metal would be pasul. Umayshna mishamini matachas pasulim. Dichsib kesef v'havaya. It says lashon kesef and it says havaya by the chatzaitzos. Menachos nami miksha v'havaya. So why are you? In other words, if you have a limud that a dafka has to be kesef, you should have a limud that a dafka has to be one piece and not multiple pieces. Again, you're telling me that the chatzaitzos dafka kesef, nothing else, but it could be grutois. Now, why kesef? Because it says kesef, it says avaya. It says miksha also avaya. So l'chayra, it should be the chatzaitzos have to be from one piece, right? So mirachman agavi menorah miksha he v'le chatzaitzos. Dafka it and not the chatzaitzos. Okay, so menorah dafka, the menorah dafka has to be miksha for one piece. Chatzaitzos do not have to be from one piece, but the chatzaitzos have to be from the one type of silver, one type of metal, as opposed to the menorah, which could be from other metals. Okay, so we just contrasted. Yeah, yes, nothing.
I mean,
excuse me.
Grutois.
Grutois, we had it before. It's different pieces, a bunch of pieces, not one piece. As opposed to
not made
one
from
piece,
one.
it can be from particles, different pieces put together. That's what we had it earlier, right? Okay. There's a Taisus over here. We have a little time. Let's see this Taisus. Chatzaitzos. Chatzaitzos named Boim and Eshesh min kesef. Tema. So it's mashman has to be silver. Tema. The perikolat slamim. Mashma de boish shaloi min kesef. The boy romi barchama. Hamshtachvel behema. Karnehu maula chatzaitzos. If you bow down to an animal, what's the din vis-a-vis its horns being used for chatzaitzos? Now, if it has to be made of kesef, what's the Gemara Shaila in the first place? If it has to be kesef, so what's the Gemara Shaila in the first place? If it's not nami b'mesech dakinim, zehu she'amru kishu chai koiloi echad, u'kshu meis koiloi shiva. Right? When it's alive, it has one voice. When it's dead, it has multiple voices. Right? Karnov lechatzaitzos. Its horns can be used for chatzaitzos, and its sinews can be used for the kinor. So you see that what another proof that chatzaitzos can be made from horns. Umhach shaminon ein kosher kol kach. From Schmeitzen, from those Gemaras is not so schwer. The Hacha Bishal Moshe Shlei Hoyu Kashrus L'Doros Kid B'Samach. Very geschmack. As we're going to see in a second, Moshe's chatzaitzos were limited; they couldn't use it after Moshe. So this whole sugya is going. Moshe could have made it out of pieces, right? Not but only kesef. That's speaking future generations. That would be the easiest way out. Avokoshin Masech Tamid. Tanan, Ushtei Chatzaitzos shel Kesef biyadam, Mashma the Afle Doire shel Kesef. Right, so that's speaking about future generations. So how can you have a Gemara on one hand telling me that you can use Chatzaitzos made out of horns? V'tiritz Rabbeinu Tam, the Shtei Chatzaitzos hayu l'kahanim, b'shel Kesef, v'halavim shel kanei behema, l'kli shir. There are two. There was the Kahanim's Chatzaitzos that made a Kesef, and the chatzaitzos that were used for instruments by the Levium. Those that are used for instruments by the Levium were made from horns, like a shofar. And those that the Kohanim used, they were kesef. Okay? But the chatzaitzos, the kinim avodah zara, hainu shofar. They weren't chatzaitzos, they were shofar in the first. Okay, I think, so very geschmack. Kasha, teretz. So chatzaitzos is a broader term than we thought, right? A broader term than we thought. But right now, we're dealing with the chatzaitzos of the Kahanim, the chatzaitzos that Moshe made, and the Gemara says the following. Tan Rabbanan, Kol HaKelim Amid Beis, Kol HaKelim Sh'asa Moshe, Ksherim Loi, Uksherim L'Doiris. All of Moshe's Kelim that he made are kosher for Moshe and kosher for future generations. Chatzaitzos, however, Ksheris Loi. The chatzaitzos are only kosher for Moshe. Upsulos l'doiros, and the apostle for future generations. Chatzaitzos my timela. Ilay medamakra asay lecha v'loy l'doiros. Make it for yourself and not for future generations. Elamiata v'asisu lecha orin eitz, and you should make for yourself an orin of eitz. Hachanami de lecha v'loy l'doiros. You're going to tell me the orin, if the lecha is unique, limited to Moshe, you're going to tell me the orin was only for Moshe? And we know it's not, right? We know the Aron wasn't just by Moshe, right? You're telling me Lecha would mean for you, Moshe, alone. And that's why it says, Asay Lecha, the Chatzaitzah should be only for Moshe and no one else. If you're going to darshan Lecha that way, then by the Aron where it says, Vasis Lecha, Aron eitz, Hachanami de Lecha v'loy l'dairos, Ella, Ilaman de Amar Lecha mishalcha, Lecha means either your own money, Ilaman the Amikaviyachal b'shalchani writes that the tzibur can bring it, but I consider it as much if you bought it. Yosim shalahem. Okay. Hainami biboy leilahachi. Right. We need it. What? Right. Hainami boy leilahachi. That what? Guys. So maybe the lechaber chetzaitzu is that it should be either from your money or from the tzibur's money, and I want it from yours, but not to limit it that only Moshe could use it. In other words, you're telling me lecha the drasha means use your money or use the tzibur's money, but I consider it yours. So let's say the same thing by the chatzaitzos, but don't say it's limited to Moshe and only Moshe. Hasan by the chatzaitzos lamakro lecha lecha zimni. It says it twice. Asay lecha v'yilecha. Therefore, what the chatzaitzos is only for Moshe. Now it said over here v'aslecha oren eitz. It says that you should go ahead and make an oren of eitz. So Sully Bornstein mentioned it in briefly a Meshech Chochmah. I thought it was fascinating enough that we should analyze it ourselves. So here's the Meir Simcha. Okay, it starts over here all the way to the right. It says Vayas B'Tzalel Es Oren. It's in Pashas Vayakel. You can see it's Perik Lamed Zayin Pasuk Aleph. Vayas B'Tzalel Es Oren. Ma deloy kosev bekula. Rameya Simcha is tiny. Why does it mention B'Tzalel made the Aron fellas? It doesn't mention that by any other place. It says the Aron, the menorah was made. Everything was made. The shulchan was made. It doesn't say B'Tzalel. It says so. He's bothered by that. Says Rameya Simcha mishum sheshar devarim asu gam acherim bebeis leilamim, because the other ones were not made by B'Tzalel. In other words, B'Tzalel uniquely alone. Good, he was the architect. But when it came to the actual artisan putting it together, the only thing he did was the Aron. V'chein b'bayasheni ula asid. Hu adin b'bayasheni ula asid. Other things will be made by other people. Aval Aron shenignaz oid lo yasu echad. Achar. Once the Aron was hidden, it was never made another. Ki ein lasais luchos acherim. We can't make any other luchos. V'rak Aron b'tzalel hu shekayim l'doiris v'loi acher v'dosh hativ. Guys, says Rameh Simcha Peled Gedin. Now we know that the kalim in the Mishkan, right? There were different kalim, the Shulchan, the Mizbeach, Ketairis. There were many kalim. Says Rameh Simcha, those kalim were made by artisans. They were made by people. The Aron was uniquely made by Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur. He made it. It was the only Aron made in history. There never was another Aron. There never was another Aron. But, big question, guys, in Bayesheni, why didn't they make another Aron? We know in Bayesheni there wasn't another Aron. We know, why didn't they? So, there was no Luchais. So if there's no Luchais, without the Luchais, the Aron's not anything. But Sveitens, it had to be made out of Beit Salah, but Salah wasn't there. Now, Rameh Simcha now is going to tell sich, why Dafka Betzalel made the Aron? Why did he have to make the Aron? What was good? The Kedusha, everything. Yeah. Yes, Kenny.
Wasn't there a second Aaron that Pinchas took out to war?
Yeah, but that was just hold the Shivei Luchos that he went to war. But we're talking about the Aron that stood in the Kodesh Kodashim.
Right, but I'm saying, who made that one? Is that one as old as the Midbar?
That one could have been just a box. That one wasn't necessarily made out of gold. That could have just been a box. Again, it was never the Aron that's discussed in Parshas Truma. It's not discussed over there. Again, it could have been. But that was, they took out to war, and we know that when it was stolen, they took out the real one, right? They took it out the real one from Shiloh by Chafni and Pinchas, right? That was the real one. But this is speaking about the Aron, the real Aron, and that wasn't existed in Bayesheni. Now he continues. Rameh Simcha says something. This is why I really brought it in for the second half. V'yitachin oid the Amru in Masechta Yuma b'shosh shenichnasu goyim lahechel, when the goyim came into the hechel. Ro kruvim hamuurim zeh b'zeh. He saw the kruvim, they were hugging each other. Ha'itzior l'shuk, they took it out, and they said, Yisrael alolu, shebirchosam bracha, v'kolosan klala, yasku b'dvarim alolu. In other words, they're being involved in intimacy. This is what they're keeping in their kodesh place, a man and a woman hugging each other. Miyad hizilon, they began to go ahead and make fun. Ukezeh darshu b'mechilta al shemois, Leisasun el keza el heza kesef shem asu son shel kesef harihin ki'ilu asa elahe kesef. If you make him of silver, it's like you made gods of silver. V'im kain cheshash Hashem yisbarach shema achrei shechatu be'egel. Since Bnei Yisrael went after the egel, shema kishiyase echad esa aroin. If somebody else would make the aroin, yavoy laharer eze machshava zara. Hanoite lidarke tal samois v'atzabeyem, going after these idol worshippers. In other words, you see, fellas, that the Aron, it led to mizilzel in when they saw the kruvim, they were mizalzel, right? They were mizalzel that they cheapen things. And we know that, and led to like the idea of avodah zarah, this God. And this is what they're involved in. So the religion can't be the right religion. And Memela, they also, it cheapened things. So the concern was, we see by the Egel, that the Egel of Zahav was according to opinions, what they served as an Avodah Zarah. So Im Kain, says Rameh Simcha Gavaldik. Im Kain, Cheshash Hashem Yisbarach, Hashem was worried, Shema Achrei Shechatu Be'egel, Shem kishiyase echad es aron. If some would make the aron, yavoi laharer ezem achshava zara. They come after some noitel ledarche of these idol worshippers. Lechein bocha b'tzalel. Therefore, getting back to the premise, why B'tzalel had to make the aron? She'avi aviv, his grandfather, again B'tzalel ben Uri ben Chur, Nerag al asher micha ba'asiyas egel. He got that his grandfather was killed by the Egel guy. Chor was killed. Trying to stop him from the Egel, Chor was killed. Im Kain, mitzad chinuch v'hateva, shu soine kol anoitim achrei hevel, right? V'tziu shum demus v'tmuna, since the whole chinuch of Betzalel passed on from the Messiah's family to hate anything that would cause people to go after what Avodah Zarah, ובכל יובוי לשום מחשבה זרה כלל. ולכן כוסה ויעש בצלאל, שהוא לבדי עשה את האורן בלוי שום סיוע, without any help, right? Without any help. And so says the Meshech Chochmah something gewaldig shebe gewaldig, guys. You hear what he says? He says that why did Betzalel have to make the egel? Why did Betzalel have to make the Aron? Have to make the Aron to avert the problem that you can see. Anytime you're using metal, it could go ahead and cause and lead to avodah zarah. You see what happened by the egel. You see when they went into the Mishkan and they saw the kruv, where they went into the bias, and it led to these ideas and these thoughts. So Memela, the Aron itself couldn't have been made out of some other artisan. It had a daf to be made out of Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur. Yiddish term is geflanst. It was planted in Betzalel from his grandfather. Chur, this hatred for Avodah Zarah, as he saw, they tried to go ahead and to stop making the egel. Memela, this had to be done with certain purity of thought, and that's why the Meshech Chochmah says that it was made dafka al yedei Betzalel. Beautiful Meshech Chochmah. I thought.
I have a question. I don't understand so much why he brought in the Gemara in Yuma, because that was the Goyim. That wasn't Klal Yisrael who,
But it's possible to look. But it was possible to look at. You see this image that the Kruvim. It could lead to that. It could lead to that. Now, it's all he brought it in for is to show that the gold of the Aron, what it could lead to. Avodah Zarah. That's all. I think that's why he brought it.
I thought he was going somewhere else with it, because there's I think it's a medrash, or maybe it's a Gemara, where they should not have been hugging each other because Hashem theoretically should have been angry with them.
Right. Yes. There's Torah on that too. There's much bigger Torah over here. This is by Sheni. There was no Aron in the first place. Where was the Kruvim? So we saw the Gemara in Yuma. Maybe they scraped it off the walls. They had pictures on the walls. I don't know if you remember that. Okay, anyway. L'chal hapachas, the Rosh Chochmah stands as focusing on, as always he does, to synthesize the Torah Shebechasav and Torah Shebal Peh. Why Betzalel Dafka? Okay, now let's finish up this idea of the menorah. We're going to see a machlokas over here. And Tani Rav Papa Berei, the Rav Chanan, the names are important. Rav Papa, the son of Rav Chanan, learned the Brisa in front of Rabbi Yosef. Menorah hoisa ba'a mina eshes min azav. We said, lichatchila, the Aron should be made out of one piece of gold. However, asa shel kesef kshera. If you made it out of silver, it's kasha. Shel ba'atz, if you made it out of tin, v'shel avar or lead, v'shel gisteroin or different pieces, right? Rebbe Paisel, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Machshir. So according to Rav Papa, the Aron can be made only of two things. That everyone would agree, gold or silver. Other metals would be a machloikis Rebbe and Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. That Rebbe would say other metals is pasul, and Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda would say it's kosher. Mishel eitz, v'shel etzem, out of wood or out of bone, shel schuchis, or out of glass, divrei kol psula, everyone would say it's pasul. So we have Rav Papa, the son of Rav Chanan, reporting that the metal that could be used is silver or gold. If it's an other metal, that's a machlaikis, but everyone agrees would not. Amalei Rabbi Yosef to Rav Papa, Rav Chanan, my daitach, what is Yisvara? That Rabbi Yosef, again, we're going that Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda says, he says, you would use other gold, but you couldn't use wood. Amalei Rav Papa, Dein Mar, so Rav Papa, whether it's Rebbe ubein mar, or whether it's Rabbi Yosef or Yehuda, klale prote darshi. They darshan klalu pratu klal. They darshan klalu pratu klal. It says vasisa menoras zahav. Vasisa menorah is a klal. Zahav tar dafka of zahav is a prat. Miksha teyasa is a klal. Good. So now, okay. So you have guys klalu pratu klal. What's the prat? Zahav tahar. The prat is zahav tahar. Now, Mar Rabbi Yosef Yehuda says Ma prat zahav tahar mefurish shel mateches gold of metal. Av kol shel mateches. Any other mateches is kasha. Rebbe Savar, Ma Pram Mufurish Davachoshev, Akov Davachoshev. So Geshmak, guys, let's go through it. What did he say? What did Rav Papa report? Everyone would agree with silver. Machloikis Rebbe Yosef Yehuda by metal, and everyone would say it's not. So now, if my klalu pratu klal is and the prat is zav tahar, so Rebbe, who said that what only metal, only silver. Of course, metal, it's a metal, but it's not any metal, it's gold. So the prat is gold. The klal now goes moises on gold. Just like gold is a metal and a chosh of a metal, so too it has to be a chosh of a metal. Kesef, as opposed to tin, as opposed to lead. Whereas that is a Rebbe. Whereas opposed to Rabbi Yosef ben Yehuda, right? Any metal would be good. Any metal would be good. Okay. Amr Rabbi Yosef to Rav Papa, Sami Didach, your brisa that you're darshaning, take it away, Mikami Didi, from in front of my brisa. The Tanya, here's my brisa. Klei sharesh sha'asin shel eitz. A klei sharesh that was made of wood. Rebbe Poisel, Rabbi Yosef Yehuda Machshir. Rebbe would say is no good. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda would say what? It is good. But my kamifliki, what's the machloikas? Rebbe saying no good. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda saying yes good. Rebbe Darish Atayra, the way klalu pratu klal. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Darish Ribu and Miot. Right? Again, we know all the time, guys. Ribu and Miot will be more than klalu pratu klal. We're not going to go through the cups. Rebbe Darshins, Derek klalu prat. Therefore, vasisa menoras is of zav is klal. Excuse me, vasisa menoras klal. Zav tar prat. Miksha teyasa menoras klal. Chaslo klal. Klalu pratu klal yatudan el prat. Ma pram furish shel mateches. Af kol shel mateches is kosher as opposed to what? Wood. And Rabbi Yosef Yehuda Darish, Rabbi Yosef Yehuda says, Ribuye umiyute. He's going to dash in ribu umiyut. Vasisa menoras ribuy. V'zav Torah miyut. Miksha tiyasa menorah chazav ribuy. Ribuy miyut. Ribuy akol. Umay Rabbi kol mili. Even eights. Uma miyut. Miyut shel cheres. You'll be memayit cheres. So guys, according to Rav Papa, eights is out. And the machlokes is by whether any metal or not. According to the way Rabbi Yosef's learning, any metal is good. And the shaila whether eights is out or not. If you're going to dash in klalu pratu klal, eights is out. That's Rebbe. Like Rebbe Yosef Yehuda, we're going to dash in ribuy miyut and we'll be memayit only what cheres will include. You can have a wooden menorah. You could have a wooden menorah, and that's even Rabbi Yosef Yehuda would say that. Okay, that's the machlokes. Again, Lo Rav Papa. Everyone holds wood is out, and the machlokes is whether dafka silver or the metals. According to Rabbi Yosef, every metal's in, and the machlokes Rebbe eights is out. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda says eights is in. That's the way you'd learn it. So I'm Rav Papa, Rabbi Yosef. Rav Papa says Rabbi Yosef, Adarabba, Samidi dach mikamidi di. You take away your brisa in front of my brisa, right? That only what? Of course, eights is out, and the only machlokes is by metal. It says Lo Sal Kedaito to say that, right? The Tanya, Ein Lo Zav. If you don't have a metal of zav, maybe shel kesef being silver, shel nechayshes copper, shel basel iron, v'shel bedil, v'shel eferes, or dil is tin, eferes is some type of metal. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda and machsher af b'shel eitz. So you see that when Rabbi Yosef Yehuda is machsher shel eitz, you see Rav Papa not like you, but like me, Rabbi Yosef, because you Rav Papa, you said divrei hakol eitz is out. You said Divrei Hakol eitz is out. You have a brisa saying Mefurish eitz is in, according to Rabbi Yosef Yehuda. V'tanya idach, another brisa, Lo yasa adam beis tavnis hechel. A person should not make, when he's making pictures or 3D images of the kalim in the Beis Hamikdash, he should not make the heichal in its proper dimensions. Achsadra, he should make an achsadra like a hallway. Keneged a ulam like the ulam. Chotzer keneged azara. Shulchan keneged shulchan. Menorah keneged menorah. Aval oisahu shel chamisha. He can make a menorah out of 5 branches. Shel shisha 6 branches. Shel shmoina like we have 8 branches. That you could do. Shel shiva leyaseh, but 7 not. Vafilu mishar mini matechas. Even other metals. Even other metals, you should not make an image of the menorah. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda Omer, af shel eitz leyaseh. Even shel eitz you shouldn't do. Guys, so why do you see Rabbi Yosef Yehuda? Fellas, meaning the menorah could be eitz. When you're telling me, fellas, what you're not allowed to make a copy of, it must be the form you're making a copy of it's acceptable. So when Rabbi Yosef Yehuda said not only metal, but even making a menorah out of eitz is wrong. It must be, why is it wrong? Because you could have a menorah al yedei eitz. Another raya to the way Rabbi Yosef's prices worked out, the klal pratu klal and the ribui miyut versus Reb Papa. Okay, Reb Papa. So Amalot Chacham said misham raya. There's no raya. Shpudim shel barzel hoya. It was made out of metal. V'chifon b'batz, and they covered it with tin. Heshir, they got wealthy. Asam shel kesef. Chas v'shiru asami shel zahav. Okay, so basically we're concluding the share just with a machlokes over here about the menorah. Just a quick summary. There's a machlokes between the Tanoim, Amoraim, Rav Papa Bar Chonan, and Rabbi Yosef as to what the machlokes between Rebbe and the Chachamim vis-a-vis the menorah. Everyone holds you can make it out of metal, of gold. That's l'chatchila. Silver, everyone seems to say silver is very good. Everyone seems to see silver is very good. You could make it out of silver. Other metals, says Rav Papa, that's a machlokes. Rebbe said other metals not, but other metals not. And Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda says other metals yes, but everyone's moide no eitz, according to Rav Papa. According to Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yosef, that's not the machlokes. Every metal is acceptable. The machlokes between Rebbe and Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda is by eitz. According to Rebbe, no. According to Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda, yes. Bez Hashem will continue more about the menorah tomorrow.